G'day guys, welcome to Whangamata. This is where it all started for me. Our family go back about 1950s. Granddad was over here and he was a cray fisherman. So in those days he was getting 6p a pound for frozen cray tails. And when he first started, he had a rowboat. So he used to row out to Clark Island and set his pots out there. He had two sets of pots, so we had the standard timber frame pots with the chicken mesh, and he also had ones made out of supplejack cane. And in the old days, the ones he made out of supplejack, he'd take up into the mangroves and he'd leave them up there for about 6 months, and they'd get all these all the mollusks and get all the smell out of them. And so he used two sets of pots. But yeah, he used to row out to Clark Island and set his pots. And he fished with Ben and Chook Thompson, who are local identities here. Ben Thompson had the local fish shop here, and Ben's sons are still here. Colin and Peter are still here in Whangamata, but they were old family friends, and yeah, they were the local fishing identities. So Granddad's holding pot used to be tied to the end of a wharf, and you get the odd person would go down to the holding pot and help themselves to a feed of crays. Crayfish, or as the Americans call them, lobsters, and they'd help themselves to a feed of crayfish. But in those days no one had any money, and New Zealand's called koha, so we used to trade. So someone would help themselves to a feed of crayfish, but a week later they might come around with a big armful of vegetables or the hind quarter, of wild pork or something. So everyone used to trade in those days. Yeah, so Granddad fished out of here, as I say, 6p a pound for frozen tails, and in those days they used to get their bait, they either ran some nets or they used to use a half a plug of jelly. So if you get a half a plug of jelly, and they'd see us, my son Cameron's laughing. Different rules these days, but they'd come across a school of kahawai or trevally on the surface, gulping, sort of right on the surface feeding. They'd get a half a plug of jelly, chuck it into the school, boom, there was your bait for a month. Yeah, stop shaking your head, Cam. Yeah, so that's how it was. Yeah, so, and Dad had a cray boat out of here. The guy used to run up for him. So yeah, everything for me started here. So I had my first boat was a 26 footer. I sort of got sucked into it. I came back from Australia, and I was going to do the endless summer. So myself and two friends from Australia, we came to Whangamata, we were surfing, and then we were going to go on to Hawaii and then on to California. And I left a bit of money with Dad, and about 3 months later Dad said, righto, I said to Dad, righto, we're off to Hawaii, I'll grab that money. And Dad said, oh no, I bought you a boat. So I was a carpenter by trade, I was a qualified carpenter, and I got sucked into bloody fishing, and I've been doing it ever since. So yeah, so over where this blue boat over here is, on the inside mooring, that was my mooring. And I had my little 26 footer there. It was a little shit heap actually. It was called Murky. It should have been called Muddy. So I had it parked there, and all our dinghies, and they're still there. You can still see the dinghies here. So all the dinghies used to be there, and they'd always steal your oars. So we developed the art of basically standing in the bow of the boat and just using one oar and paddling out to the mooring and getting your boat. And I'd park the boat up on the mooring, and on the way back in, we used to see John Dory swimming through the water. So all you had to do was you'd come along on your dinghy, standing up the bow, and you'd give it a bit of a splash, and you'd drive it up into the shallows, and the John Dory would come up into the shallows, and you'd drive it in there, jump off the boat, grab your bloody John Dory, and that was your breakfast. And the same thing where we tied up at the wharf. So you'd come into the wharf, and we'd be tied up, and I used to bait on my hooks. So I think we used to run 1,200 hooks in those days, snapper long lining. And we used to tie up at the wharf, and we'd bait up our hooks. Might be 3 in the morning, you'd be busy baiting up your hooks. And the same thing at low tide, along the foreshore, you'd hear this flap, 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 and you knew straight away what it was. You'd down tools, get up on the wharf, and you'd sprint like hell. You'd jump off the end of the wharf onto the sand and run along, and sure enough, a John Dory had come in and chased all the sprats in the shallows and got too shallow and laid over on its side. So we'd come running in, grab the John Dory, and again, that was your breakfast. So yeah, good times. So yeah, this is where it all started for me. Even as a kid, We used to do the pippies, which are a little shellfish. So low tide out by the bar, when we were kids, that was to get our pocket money. Dad would send us down with a bucket, and you'd put your sand and put your feet in the sand, fill the puppies, bend down and fill your bucket up. And we'd get bitten by the odd paddle crab. And then when you came through here up into the inner harbour, up towards what's now the boat ramp, up in here we get cockles. So it's a different shellfish. So we'd get these cockles. So we get puppies, we'd go and get cockles, and if we'd been particularly naughty, the old man would make us go and get mullet. So what we do is, right where the boat ramp is, my brother and I, we'd have this little mullet net, and my brother was shorter than me, so he'd stand in the shallow end. I'd wade out into the deep end, and we'd just walk up the side of a channel and get the mullet. And to get our pocket money, Dad and all his cronies used to drink at what was called the Buffalo Lodge. It was an old club in the old days, like the Workmen's Club, down by the fire station in Whangamata. So he used to make us split the mullet, gut and split the mullet, keep the roe. We'd sprinkle brown sugar on the mullet and we'd smoke it. So when I was 7, 8, 9 years old, I used to be smoking these mullets, and we'd take them down to the club where Dad and his mates were all having a jug of beer, and we'd sell them for, I think it was 25 cents or 50 cents each. We'd sell these smoked bloody mullet to Dad and his cronies, and I'm sure they threw them in the bin. But that's how we got our pocket money. So yeah, this is where it all started for me. So I had a boat called the Murky, and then I upgraded to, I bought Duncan McGregor's old boat, the Nautilus, which was a 33-foot Hartley Queenslander, made out of ferro concrete. We used to call them horse troughs. So I bought that, fished that for a few years, and then I bought a vessel called the Vanguard off Ginger Gibbs, and it was too big. It was a 55-footer. So my first 2 boats I fished out of Whangamata, and then basically the boats got bigger and bigger, and it was too big to work out of here, so I started working out of Tauranga and Auckland. Long lining for snapper in the early days, and then it was the late 80s. I was out at Mare Island and went out towards Tahua Reef and came across all these heads. And I didn't know what species they were, but just all these heads. And obviously one of the fishermen had been heading and gutting on as he'd gone into shelter up at South East Bay. And it was actually Willie Walker on the Arapara. And I didn't know what these fish were. So I did my research, and they were blue nose, or as the Australians call them, blue-eye trevally. So we ended up getting into that fishery, which was offshore, working the seamounts around Mare Island and out towards the back of the Merks, and then out towards East Cape. And that's how I got into the deep water fishery, and I've been out there ever since. So the last almost 4 decades now, I've been fishing offshore in the seamount, so I haven't fished inshore for 3 decades. Yeah, so that's the history here. But long-standing history here. Absolutely beautiful place. It's home. Yeah, absolutely love it.